Hello and welcome to Colred Plays Raid Shadow Legends. I am Colred. Thank you for joining me. In today's video, I'm going to be covering the extra legendary event that just dropped. So if you're wondering if it's a good time to pull your ancient shards, we're going to answer that question. It's a little bit more complex than just a yes or no. It's a fun event and it can be a really good time to pull shards for some players, but other players will want to hold on to shards, and we'll explain why in this video. In addition, there are a bunch of new events that have dropped as part of the overall Halloween event that is going on right now. So we're going to cover some of those and also talk about a small addendum to yesterday's Fire Night video. We've got a lot to cover. Let's get started. Just a quick reminder, I am live streaming today at 2 p.m. Eastern time. It is Takeover Tuesdays, where I give away free takeovers to viewers. Make sure that if you want to take over, you join my Discord community, because that's where we do the contest. And come join us at 2 p.m. if you enjoy that kind of content. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Okay, so first up, let's talk about the Cursed Masquerade Path event that just dropped today. So you can go here to the events page and then just click on the banner for the Cursed Masquerade Path. And you will see we have a path event just like we've had several times in the past. So if you've never done one of these, I'm just going to cover this briefly. And if you have done one of these, you know that this is a good time to go ahead and plan your approach. One of the most important things about any path event is knowing where your points come from. So over here, right over there, where it says objectives, we get different objectives for each path. This path's objectives are upgrade champions, upgrade artifacts and accessories, and summon souls from soul stones. So we've seen these objectives kind of grouped before. Sometimes there are different objectives, but in this particular case, it's not to acquire champions, which is nice. I don't like that particular objective, but to upgrade champions, upgrade artifacts and accessories, summon souls from soul stones. The top one, upgrade champions, is just like a champion training event. So you can use the same methods that you use for a champion training event. And this is a really nice, friendly objective in my mind, because it's something that most players are doing some of all of the time anyway. So all you need to do is really focus for the next 3 days on upgrading champions as much as possible. And you can also get extra points from upgrading artifacts and accessories. So if you have silver, this is where you want to spend it now, rather than in some other areas. And this is going to allow you to get the points. If you want to see the specific points for any of the objectives, you can click on the eye here, and it will give you the little charts for the different point distributions. And you can check this out and think about your plan, how far you can potentially go down these paths. So now as we look at the paths, what we're seeing is, you have options, different paths that you can enter and sort of progress through. We have the Halloween points. These are probably the biggest prize you want to focus on if you're going after those Wukong souls. And unfortunately, they're split here. You can actually see there are 6 groupings. I don't think there are any at the bottom. There aren't. There are 6 groupings, which would require you to go down 4 different trees. And that's a lot of points. Okay, so we're talking about 21,000 points just for this row of 4. And then obviously you're going to need additional points to pick up these 2 outliers up at the top. So if you're trying to maximize your Wukong soul points, or these Halloween points to get those Wukong souls, it's going to be a little bit tricky. Now, you don't necessarily need to get all of the points from this particular Heroes Path event, but this is a large number of points. This is 200 points here. So you may want to consider those as your top prize if your priority is the Wukong soul. However, if it's not, then you might want to consider other things that you could go for. There is a primal shard here at 7,000 points. It's not too far away. This is at a reasonable place for most players to be able to go after and get. It's a substantial investment, but if you're upgrading your champions and your artifacts, even if you're in the relatively early or early mid game, you may be able to get to this primal shard, or you may opt for the void shard over here instead. Extra void shards are always excellent options. I think those 2 are probably the more important rewards on this tier. So unless you were late game or end game and you really need as many Eternal Soul Essences as you can get, I generally stay away from these. There aren't a lot of offerings for these, so I'm not saying they're not important. They are, but just not as important if you're early or mid game, because it's going to take you a very long time to acquire Eternal Soul Essences, and you may not have a champion that is worth a 6 star blessing yet, because you're only going to get one or two probably, in a year. And so you want to make sure that you spend those on very good key champions in your roster. So if you're early or mid game, I would recommend focusing on one of these two shards, depending on what you like. Once you get past that, there is a tier here that has a couple of champion skins. These are fun champion skins. A lot of people will be going after the Kale skin because so many people run Kale as their starter champion. But we also have a skin here for Madame Ceres. I think that's kind of fun. Looks kind of a little bit like a Bewitched skin a little bit. And then we have two actually pretty cool avatars. I like these avatars. So these are account avatars for you to put in your account portrait. We have a bit of like a haunted jester here. It looks like he's in some kind of trap, like he's being punished for something. So that's kind of scary, spooky. And then we've got, kind of a masquerade, going with a masquerade festival or masquerade path theme. Here's another avatar that you could go after. And then finally down at the bottom, you have the legendary tomes and mythic tomes if you want to go all the way down there. It is expensive to get down there. One of the things that's a little bit frustrating, I think, is this 15,000 on the Madame Ceres skin. It means that most people are probably going to avoid that skin simply because getting the Kale skin is a cheaper way to then get to the second legendary tome. But again, depending on how many points you can collect and what your focus is, you may not get very far down this path because you may opt into the Wukong Souls or you may not. It's entirely up to you. Remember that you can give away, I think, something like around 500 points or so and still get the souls that you need or get the points that you need for the Wukong Souls in terms of the overall event. Let's just go check over there to make sure. So here's the Halloween Titan event, and the 4-star soul comes in at 1,000 points, and the total is 1,500 points. But I think that they said that the total number of available points is 1,750. So you can actually give away 750 points and still get the final 4-star soul for Sun Wukong. So don't overly stress about this path event. Make sure that you're being efficient, pick up some good resources, and just try to plan out how many points that you think you can get over the course of the entire Titan event. We're seeing that each tournament is about 50 points, and that takes us to the next step, which is the Spider Attack tournament coming up. So here you can see we have a new Spider Turn Attack tournament coming up. It will drop tomorrow. There is the Fire Knight Turn Attack going on right now. The points should be very similar in all of these dungeon tournaments. So if we're looking and we're trying to plan our points and how many Halloween points we can get for those Sun Wukong souls, you'll notice at 1,750 points up here in the right-hand column, there are 50 Halloween points available. So the path has, what did we say? That was 200 points available. So it has far more points available in that path. It is a bigger event than any single tournament. But again, this is what you can kind of do to plan. Can you get to that 1,000 points and get that 4-star Wukong soul? Or maybe can you get to the 3-star soul or the 2-star soul? You can kind of start to plan out now what's going to happen over the next several weeks. Now, I do want to mention that this Fire Knight Turn Attack is what I did my video on yesterday. And some commenters rightly pointed out that I didn't emphasize that this is a turn attack tournament. So I talked about building a demon spawn team because it is also a faction specific tournament. And I really focused on it being a faction specific tournament. And then I added a resource that shows drop rates and point distributions for Dungeon Divers events, which is, there's also a Dungeon Divers event going on, and tournament points for regular tournaments. But that doesn't actually show the points that you get for turn attack tournaments. So that chart that I showed in yesterday's video wasn't all of the information that you needed. So I apologize for not including this little bit of information. But right here, you can go up to the info tab, and this will give you actually the point distributions for a turn attack tournament. So as you can see, based on the stages, they are grouped, and they are grouped perfectly with the energy requirements. So for instance, stages 4 through 7 have the same energy requirements. Stages 8 through 11 have the same energy requirements. And then you get more points for taking fewer turns. So if you can clear the Fire Knight's castle in 30 turns, say, or 50 turns, that's going to be getting you more points than doing it in 100 or 200 turns. So in this particular case, for an attack turn tournament, your goal isn't to necessarily farm the most efficient location for gear drops or for regular tournament points, but you want to come in here and kind of plan out your turn attack approach. Remember, since 8 through 11, let's say, stages 8 through 11, all require the same amount of energy, you may be better off farming stage 8 than stage 11, because you can probably do stage 8, which is the easier stage, in fewer overall turns. So consider that, consider your energy, and I hope that didn't mess anybody up too much when I was recommending in yesterday's video how to approach this tournament. Thanks again to the viewers who commented and pointed that out. Okay, so when it comes time to the Spider Turn Attack Tournament, you can build a team the same way that we covered for the Fire Knight Turn Attack Tournament from yesterday, because this is also a faction-specific tournament. You're going to have to complete this tournament with Dark Elves. Now, I'll shout out Cold Heart right now, because she is going to be a god in this tournament. So if you have your Cold Heart, congratulations. That's going to help a lot. But if not, you could go back, watch yesterday's Fire Knight video, and you can use the same method. Obviously, it's a different faction, so they're going to be different champions that are important. And it's also a different boss. So the actual approach to the fight will be slightly different. You'll probably emphasize multi-hitters less. Multi-hitters help you break the Fire Knight's shield. But in this particular case with the spider, you're going to need a little bit more AoE to handle those spiderlings, or maybe more CC to handle the spiderlings. Or you can nuke them out. That's another option. Okay, so now with all of the other business attended to, let's look at the main event here, and that is the extra legendary event that is going on for the next 2 days. Now, when they originally announced this, I didn't look at it too closely because I thought it was going to be a Sacred Shard event, but it's actually an extra legendary for an Ancient Shard event. And we haven't had one of these in a while, so I want to go over the ideas behind the extra legendary events, and the consideration is different between an extra legendary event for Ancient Shards and an extra legendary event for Sacred Shards. So the first thing is to know exactly how it works. And basically, as it says here, is if you summon any legendary champion, you get a different extra one as a bonus. Now, this is a very powerful event. It can be a great event to pull shards during, but it's not always the best event to pull shards for. So the way this works is that the event doesn't change the drop rates. So you are pulling shards at the exact same rate or drop rates as you would get for a normal day when there's no other event going on. So if we look here at the drop rates, you can see the drop rates are not changed. So for Ancient Shards, it's an 8% chance for an epic and a 1/2 of 1% chance for a legendary. However, if you hit on a legendary, you will instantly be rewarded with a second legendary. It will not pull an additional shard. It's just going to give you 2 for 1. So it's an absolute free bonus champion. Now that sounds great, and it is, but there's some mathematical considerations here in terms of deciding if you want to pull these shards or not. I'm going to say this right up front before I get into any math or any explanation of what's optimal. If this is just such a fun event for you that you really like pulling during extra legendaries, go ahead and do it. It's your account. You can decide what you want to do and how you want to game. It's really fun to get an extra legendary here. But if you're looking to get the best benefit for your account, then you do have to make some additional considerations. And so this is what I want to show you. When we're deciding when it is most beneficial to pull shards on our account, we want to compare any other event against 2x events. 2x events are generally very beneficial, and they're also relatively simple in terms of how they deliver that benefit. Double the chances of legendaries, double the chances of epics. So when we compare a 2x event to just a normal 1x drop rate, what we know is we're going to double our chances of legendaries and we're going to double our chances of epics. So if you think about it in terms of batches of 100 shard pulls, so if you pull 100 shards during a no event moment, so just regular drop rates, you would expect a half a legendary. You can't get a half a legendary, but you would expect a return on average of a half a legendary and 8 epics. If you pull 100 shards during a 2x event, you're going to get 1 legendary and 16 epics. Again, that's the expected rate. Not everybody will get exactly those drop rates, but over the life of your account, or if you look at like all players pulling that day, those would be the expected returns. So with 100 shards, you are going from a half a legendary to 1 full legendary, and you are also going from 8 epics to 16 epics. And that's actually the bigger benefit to a lot of accounts. If you are an early game account or mid game account, if you are a free to play player or a low spender, you know how powerful epics are and what they mean to your account. So the biggest bonus from the 2x event is not just an extra chance to get a legendary, but it's also that huge pool of epics that you get. Remember, sometimes epics are bad and you just end up using them as faction wars champions, or you even use them as 4-star chickens, or maybe extra books for a duplicate, or you can put them in your faction guardians. But those extra epics give you chances to pull amazing epics that can really transform your account, like Geomancer or Stag Knight or Rector Drath or Doom Priest or Duke the Pierced or Seeker or Deacon Armstrong if you don't have your Deacon Armstrong. There are a ton of amazing epics that can really impact your account. And so you don't want to discount this doubling of the epic drop rate. So now we get to the extra legendary event that is currently going on right now. Now, as we were just talking about, this will give you an extra legendary. So if you hit, you get 2. So that's very similar to a 2x drop rate, right? You are getting double the number of legendaries that you would normally get in the long run. However, you're not getting the benefit of the double epic drop rate here today. So this event for most players, for many players at least, is not quite as good as the 2x event. But there is an exception, and there is a way that this can actually be the best event in the entire game. And that is if you are very close to Mercy, or if you are in your Mercy system. So if we look at the Ancient Shard Mercy system here, we know that after 200 pulls without a legendary, you enter the Mercy system, and each additional shard will increase your chance of getting a legendary by 5%. So as soon as you enter Mercy, really immediately, your chances of pulling a legendary jump from 0.5% to 5.5% on that very first Mercy system shard. So that would be your 201st pull. So right there, you are now way ahead of the 2x drop rate for legendaries. So if you are in your Mercy system, you should absolutely pull during an extra legendary event. There's no question. Even if you are right at 200, you should be pulling, because that is the best chance you are ever going to have to get an extra legendary, basically. Think about it this way. Normally, you have to pull 200 shards to get one legendary. Here, you could pull 1 shard and get 2 legendaries. It's hundreds of times better for some players to pull when you're in your Mercy system. Now, chances are you're going to have to pull several shards, even if you're in the Mercy system, right? You're only pulling that first shard at around a 5.5% chance. And so it might take you 5, 6, 10, even all the way up to the full 20 shards to get your extra legendary. So if you are in Mercy and you have 20 ancient shards, you can guarantee yourself 2 legendaries in no more than 20 shards. That's the best event in the game. It is absolutely the best return in the entire game. Forget about the extra epics at that point. You don't care. You're getting 2 legendaries in 20 or fewer shards. So now the question becomes, well, I'm close to Mercy, but should I pull or not? And it really depends on how many shards you have. Let's say you are 50 shards away from Mercy and you have 70 shards. Well, then you could say, yes, if I have 70 shards, I know I'm guaranteed to get the extra legendary, because the 70 shards would get me to the full 220 shards that will guarantee me a legendary pull, right? At 20 extra shards into the Mercy system, you are guaranteed that legendary. So if you are 50 away and you have 70, you should pull. If you're 100 away and you have 120, you should probably pull. But the further you are away from the Mercy system, the more you are giving away to get that extra legendary. So what's the cutoff? And the answer is, I can't tell you. You have to decide for yourself. For me, it's probably somewhere around 80 shards. If I have to pull 80 shards to get to that bonus legendary, then I would probably not pull and I would wait for a 2x event. Maybe 100 shards is a better measurement. I don't know. And one of the reasons I don't know is because it really depends on how valuable epics are to your account. So if you are early in the game, epics are extremely valuable. If you're at end game, you probably don't care at all about epics anymore, and you would happily pull 200 shards here to get your extra legendary maybe. Or maybe you just really like this event and that bonus legendary is so much fun that you want to go for it, and that's fine. but you should know what you're giving up when you're going for it, and you should know when you should absolutely go for it if you're trying to be optimal in your usage of your shards. Okay, so that is it. I am not close to my mercy system on my early account. On this account, you can see is level 53, and I need a ton of good epics. I've got a roster of like 7 champions at this point. You can see right here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 stars. I could use a ton of epics, so I will be waiting for a 2x event. That won't be coming around for like 5 weeks. So it's going to be a long wait. And that's another thing that I could have mentioned. But basically, if you don't want to wait 5 more weeks, you can go ahead and pull now. But I'm going to be waiting for my 2x event 5 weeks from now. All right, just a reminder, there is a 2x Sacred Shard event dropping this Friday. So if you just have the itch to pull shards, but you can wait a couple of days, that Sacred Shard event will be here this weekend. So you don't have to wait too long. So if that helps you hold off on pulling for the extra legendary event and waiting for another 2x Ancient Shard event, there you have a reason to save those shards. Okay, that is it. Please let me know in the comments below if you have decided to pull shards today. And if you did pull shards, did you get lucky? Did you happen to hit? Was it a good decision for you? I hope that you got the result that you were hoping for, or if you've decided to wait, I hope that that is also the good decision for you and that you will get more value during a 2x Ancient Shard event. But whatever you choose, I wish you luck. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And remember, I will go live at 2 p.m. today with my Takeover Tuesday. So if you're interested in that, come join us in the live stream. Thanks so much. I've been Colred. I will see you in another video soon.